Well, hello and welcome to returntoyourtruth.com. This is Jim Tortsakis. In this presentation, I'm going to explain some critical fundamentals, okay, because we're now at a time and place where you can finally say goodbye to the old layer by layer or one by one or issue by issue method of healing, clearing, and reactivation that generally takes years for us to arrive to a healed and cleared enough state where you can call the shots in your current incarnation, in your life. Now, one-on-one sessions still have their place, partly because of the counselling the egoic conscious mind and personality sometimes needs, okay? But there's no doubt, ploughing through issues one at a time, layer by layer, doesn't work for most of us either, because there's literally millions of so-called soul gateways, otherwise known as soul fragments, or just issues, whatever forms of interferences that need to be cleared. Okay, and so this is a big issue. And before I get into the details of how this is largely been resolved, I'm going to quickly, many of you haven't come across me before. Many of you, it's the first time you've arrived on this website, so I'm just going to quickly tell you who I am so you know who's talking to you. So, like I said, my name's Jim Tortsakis. For most of my life, I was a very isolated, introverted individual, heavily run by fear. I also had Asperger's, so my ability to integrate into this world and be a part of it was damaged, the ramifications of which put me through intense suffering, loneliness, with a self-esteem that was almost non-existent. And like so many Asperger's sufferers, my head was too much in the other worlds, quote unquote. All I would read from the age of 13 was Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov science fiction books, among others. And for those of you who don't know who Arthur C. Clarke was, he's the writer of 2001: A Space Odyssey and 2010, the sequel to that. And it's one of the greatest science fiction authors, literally of all time. Mainly because he knew a lot about the esoteric truth of human history. And anyway, it wasn't till much later in life I discovered that the biggest, most dangerous movers and shakers, or mover and shaker beings who incarnated on this planet were actually implanted to produce autism to varying degrees, as only one of many ways of keeping beings like us, and probably you as well, in check, okay? So, now autism can also be caused by vaccines, but really for the most part, many of us were energetically abducted from a very young age, 2 years old in my case, with implants being inserted that were very loud and noisy. And this is actually a very common cause of autism. Of course, like most of us, I was stuck living out, or more like repeating, past life karmic loops, karmic imprints, vows to others or things, and agreements or contracts, traumas and woundings coming up and through me, wreaking havoc every time I tried to make life better, and so on, which I'm sure you can relate, okay? And this is what it's all about, finally freeing ourselves from all of this. in this new way that we really need to make happen. So these were the primary reasons why my small business and marketing career would not work out. Okay, and enough was enough. I dived into personal development, as I'm sure you probably have as well, which quickly led me to the non-physical worlds of energy, which practically runs everything here too. What many refer to as spirituality. And thankfully, only the second psychic practitioner I hired was the one who introduced me to the teams, as I simply affectionately call. And it was here that I found out what's truly keeping us all locked down, effectively, to a low and dense way of existence. So I invested heavily in weekly training for 7 months straight, and actually recorded each session as well that I would repeatedly listen to for training. And this is where I established my own solid connection with the teams and fully grasped and applied the connecting mechanism to all realms and dimensions beyond this physical realm. And to my mentor's surprise, I was able to go straight down to soul level events and traumas from past lives on only the second time she took me up to them. And apparently this is a rarity for her clientele. And so this began my long road to healing and clearing, that which is not me, or otherwise known as darkness. And naturally and inevitably, I returned to being more me, more my true self and the power that entails. And the rest, as I say, is history. And I've done so many healings and clearings on myself and friends, and eventually fellow grid workers that, based on feedback, turned out to be very successful and resolved huge issues in their lives, that I decided to do this, or to go public with this and provide this for the public through this website, which I guess is a natural progression. So just quickly about the teams, what's special about the teams and who are they? Now, if you've been at this for a while, you know all about the archangels like Archangel Michael, Raphael, Katumi, Metatron, Gabriel, and others like Sunat Kumara, the creator god of this universe, who is referred to by several different names, depending on which spiritual practice you've been trained in. And these wonderful beings of light are what I call intra-universal beings of light. They exist within this universe, as do some levels of the teams that I work with. Now then we have beyond omniversal or multiversal beings of light. And the short of it is they're arguably, let's just say, more powerful. They can handle any level of darkness and rip through it, meaning transmute it, in no time. No matter what level it is, no matter how amorphous it is, it's a case of no job too big. They're effectively much closer to source in the general sense. Even though we can all connect with source, they're situated much closer to it, and generally they don't intervene in any universe, unless instructed to by source. And to our awareness, this universe is the main one they've intervened with, because this is where darkness, through the game of contrast and interaction with something called the primary cosmic anomaly, okay, which is not negative itself, just highly random and anomalous. The combination of those resulted in something that got really out of hand and went far outside the original purpose of Source and spiraled out of control and started infecting other universes. So the good news is both these beyond multiverse teams that are simply way ahead of us within the perspective of all that is, way ahead of us in terms of their evolutionary path, much closer to Source and way above this multiverse, okay, as well as the intra-universal teams are drawing to a close this epic saga, with this solar system being the last one to liberate, and this very planet being the focal point of the cosmic clearing and transformation. Believe it or not, as grandiose as that may sound. So all will be fine, regardless of how you feel right now. Okay, and it's time to get you cleared, healed, and back to your natural state of joy, bliss, and freedom. So that's a bit about who I am and who the teams are. The teams, especially the above or beyond multiverse level, they generally, especially as it applies to what you're going to discover in this presentation, as it applies to how the fundamental mechanisms of how the four-phase system works, they generally operate from a place of omnipresence, okay, where they're everywhere at once. And your authentic I am presence is actually omnipresent as well. And so we'll get into the mechanics of that shortly. So back to what this presentation is about. Ultimately, it's about the biggest fundamental challenge with even the best energy and psychic healers on the planet, that drastically slows your healing and clearing, and thus the transformation of your current 3D life. And the common, I suppose, complaint and burden and struggle is the old layer by layer, issue by issue method of healing and clearing. And it's about finally overcoming that. And we've reached a time and place within where this planet is at in terms of its ascension process, where a lot more has become available for us to, I suppose, expedite our healing and clearing. So, effectively, like I said, the layer by layer or one by one, issue by issue method, for many of us, depending on your situation, it can be enough. After maybe a month or so of clearing that issue or the other issue in our life, in order to get to a certain milestone that you want to manifest, whether it's a particular business goal or career goal or relationship goal, and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's enough if you just have a specific milestone or a goal. But generally, the layer by layer, one by one method of healing and clearing, when you clear it, the next thing comes up, and so on, and it effectively acts like a frequency prison. Okay, and many of us, perhaps you, have been so frustrated, perhaps even overwhelmed and daunted and a bit depressed even about, you've spent years and years shutting down this issue, clearing the other issue, but more and more seems to come up, and you either stay at the same frequency or it's a struggle trying to manifest goals as a result. And the ultimate question is asked at the back of our minds, who've been at this for so long, working so hard on yourself to really transform your life situation and step back into your power. The question naturally arises, how can I break out of this frequency prison to naturally manifest abundance, happiness, and power by returning to who and what you are, without spending decades doing all this internal work. Because for most of us, it has been years, and in some cases decades, clearing one issue, one wounding, one trauma, one vow or agreement at a time. And, it gets to a point where enough is enough. So here's the mechanics of how you can break out of this frequency prison. Okay. And the first thing to understand and be aware of is how the four-phase system works. And the first mechanic method that the four-phase system utilizes is that fundamental number one, with audio and video recordings, you're in the same time space. Okay, so here's what I mean. It's been found that working with a large group or individually with just you and the practitioner's voice that you're listening to in a recording, is just as effective as working in a one-on-one session. Now, several years ago, a practitioner who got tired of doing one-on-ones and in some cases got tired of the sticky entanglements that occurs with many of his clients in the after session emails, decided to hold a webinar and did the same kind of work on all these 11 participants, and the results were the same as his one-on-one session, which is what counts. Now, how many times have you purchased a personal development course that was held and recorded long ago, and you got just as much out of it as those who attended live? Okay. If it did feel like you were right there with them, okay, and I know it did with me, and that's because you were energetically, and energy doesn't work with time-space in a linear way, only in a simultaneous way. So whether it's a webinar, a recorded webinar, or a recorded lesson or course, and if you're listening to the recording, you're right there in that specific time space realm. Even if there were other participants listening to this recording at the same time, they're sort of not there. It's just you and the voice that you're listening to, the practitioner that you're hearing. It's just the two of you. So it's important to understand this energetic fundamental which is why this method of receiving treatment and energy work works. Yeah, it's been proven to. So that's energetic fundamental number one. And the second thing to be aware of, energy fundamental number two, is most individual wounding and unique issues are similar to everyone else's or universal. Now, it's easy to assume that, we're all unique and different, and each of our personal events in the past that have left their karmic loop and imprints and whatnot are very unique. Generally speaking, okay, so this is not necessarily an absolute per se, but generally speaking, that's not really the case. Okay, we all have the same problems, really. Okay, the things that you need to clear to liberate yourself from are the same or very similar in nature. And this was actually discovered by a genius copywriter. Eugene Schwartz is his name. His job was to get attention through copywriting to people that he doesn't know, and connect with their most private issues that they're struggling with in order to respond to his writing. And he discovered that people, just the common things that everyone very privately struggles with, if you apply that in the universal sense in his writing, that they responded to. So think about that. Now, with the right protocols, okay, the right commands, and high enough levels of light, meaning the intensely powerful, very senior light beings, the teams that I just described before, that, that are with you during this same time space, okay, as it relates to the four-phase systems sessions, as well as the universal fundamental and all-important element of your intent and command, are now all combined to give you every bit as good a clearing, healing, and activating as a live one-on-one session, which generally costs more as well. Now, the specific life trauma or vow or agreement, for example, doesn't always necessarily have to be specifically, okay? Although, because in each session, during each phase of the recording, the teams, including your I Am Presence, operate from a place of omnipresence. They can and do that when necessary, because they're everywhere at once. That's the place that they operate from. So that's the thing about this second energetic fundamental. Your most private, most personal, quote-unquote unique issue is actually surprisingly more than you would expect, quite universal, that we all ironically share. Okay, and with the four-phase system, what's great about it is that we can use that to our advantage to clear, to heal, reactivate, return to the bigness of who and what you really are, where you naturally attract all the higher frequency, the high frequency grid of people, times, places, events, abundance, and so forth, just by the person that you become, or re-become, I should say, because it's about returning to who and what you are, which is this massive being where attracting all the great things, attracting abundance becomes very easily. It comes to you very easily. So, on to the third energetic fundamental of how the four-phase system works and what allows it to work so well. And that is simply something you might be familiar with. What you choose with your intent applied to your command is more powerful than you can imagine. Especially if you're doing it from the physical plane, but at the same time, your consciousness or you're energetically at some of the most highest levels of all that is. In this case, way above the whole multiverse, which seems to give, in my experience, seems to give you a lot more, I suppose, authority, a lot more power, a lot more ability, where you can just move a lot more energy. And I mean a lot more energy. It's an interesting thing. Based on my personal experience, I was able to do so much more and clear so much more when I went way above, outside the universe and way above the whole multiverse, to work with such senior levels of light. Now, intent is one of the basic mechanisms of creation, okay? And as an extension of Source, let alone all the 12-dimensional higher aspects of you, you can use and apply this basic mechanism of creation, especially when you're shown how to, with the right protocols, the right commands, in the company of high levels of light who will clear the path and assist when required. Okay, and upon the authorization of your higher self, who sees that it truly is time for a given intent to be fulfilled, and sees that you really are ready to return to who and what you really are by drastically stepping up your evolution. So, with that understanding, let's move on to energetic fundamental number 4. So, light beings of high enough levels of light and seniority, let alone what I call macro level light beings, which are the light beings that are outside this universe and way above the multiverse, along with your I am presence, they all can connect to omnipresence instantly and be in all time, space, and space-time at once, okay, which acts as kind of like another mechanism that's also applied to clear far more and heal vast amounts of your current and past life issues, events simultaneously, because time is simultaneous, not linear. So this is a very powerful fundamental that, again, sounds grandiose, but it is a fundamental energy mechanism that we now, because of the level that the planet has ascended to, with all the clear planetary clearings that's occurred, has resulted in us being able to do much more, being able to access much more, which includes the powers and ability of operating from the place of omnipresence. Okay. So I've already given enough information for it to sink in, that it needs a bit of sinking in for you to be able to truly receive this. And again, I just want to make clear, because it's possible that you may be someone who's unfamiliar with what's beyond the level of this universe. But just know that, we all assume that there's just, the archangels, ascended masters, and then there's source. Okay. So just be aware that there's so much more levels of light in my experience here. Okay, so I'm not necessarily telling you like it is or telling you what to believe. Okay. But in my experience, they've had even greater amounts of seniority thanks to where they are in the evolutionary scale or spectrum. There's just so much to all that is that there's a lot of non-physical beings, both within this universe, within other universes, and way above and outside the whole multiverse that don't even know physicality exists. Okay, that just gives you an idea of how vast all that is. Okay, and that's not my words. That's Jim Self, which you may or may not be familiar with from Mastering Alchemy. So it's important to have a lot of humility. Okay, from a place of extremely high regard for yourself and who you really are, but humility is still critical when we're venturing and expanding our consciousness to realizing just how vast and what's actually out there, particularly outside and above this universe and multiverse. And of course, the big advantage to working with beyond the multiverse light beings is, that I mentioned before, is they can rip through darkness, or if you prefer, that which is not you, in no time flat. Okay, and just as important, they can handle any level of darkness, or if you prefer, anything that is unaligned with the divine, with source. So these four fundamentals is important to have a good grasp. It's important that you really are able to receive these fundamentals, because it really helps the rational egoic mind effectively, I suppose, allow the fourth phase system to work for you, because it understands now and has the logical reason how it can work, the mechanism of how they can work. So all of this working from a place of omnipresence, where they're everywhere at the same time. And you can imagine just how powerful a thing this is, the four-phase system is, what we have in our hands here, that's finally arrived in our and in your time-space, in your evolutionary path. Very, very big deal. So, omnipresence, some call this place source. Like I said, your authentic I am presence itself is omnipresence as well. No need to worry about the details of that. Just know that so much is utilized here. So, introducing the four-phase exponential healing, clearing, and DNA reactivation system, otherwise known as the four-phase system. Okay, a massive breakthrough in returning to your truth. Okay, where your power, freedom, and abundance lies. Because you can't access and manifest and exude power, freedom, and abundance without returning to your truth, who and what you are first. Okay, it generally occurs in that order, which is another fundamental to grasp. Okay, so the four-phase system is simply 4 pre-recorded guided sessions where you'll be right with me and the teams, being protectively and lovingly guided every step of the way. Okay, because every kind of trauma, wounding, and lie, and lie is the, I suppose, acronym or abbreviation for locked in and associated events that we're still stuck in, that our soul fragments are still there, still there, investing their sense of self, and in that time space of some past event. So every one of these things and all other forms of interference affects and or relates to one of your chakras. Okay, so everything can be found through each chakra. Now, I'm going to get into what each of the phases consists of, what really goes on and what you get. So, we begin with phase 1, and in phase 1, we work on, phase 1 is, phase 1 goes for an hour, approximately, and it works on not just your internal chakras, such as your root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown chakra. It also works on your soul star chakra, which is above your head, about 12 inches above your head, and your earth star chakra, which is about 2 feet below your feet. And with each of these, what's first of all scanned for and found, and in some cases quarantined, and then cleared, is all, again, lies, locked in and associated with events, where that consists of soul fragments, soul gateways, negative events within or related to each chakra at all levels, and all associated and related sacred geometry programs that kind of get distorted, imprints, karmic loops, portals that opened up with each trauma or event, because enough of an accretion of negative energy does provide the conducive environment required for portals to open up and vortexes to open up. And that's not, that's something that's not left behind. As well as programs, vows, hexes, curses, spells, contracts, agreements, entities, discarnates. And discarnates is simply people that were in your life, in a past life, for example, that died but didn't actually cross over onto the astral to continue their, reincarnation process. Okay, they're sort of still there in that event, kind of like ghosts, I suppose. And that can cause a lot of interference as well. Also, we've got neural nets, implants, wormholes, and all darkness around all these things, as well as all the damage at all dimensional levels and bodies throughout all lifetimes, including past, present, and future, as well as parallel alternate timelines and parallel alternate universes and all other simultaneous existences, okay, including on the non-physical planes, because we do exist simultaneously. And For all of these aforementioned things inherited from our parents and ancestral lineage as well, which we kind of get into more depth on in phase 2. So that's, 9 chakras worked on, which normally takes 9 sessions with with an average cost of, say, around $500 or $700 with a great practitioner. And we're still only on phase 1. As you can see, this is very comprehensive. Okay, very comprehensive stuff. There's very little that we don't clear. We get down to the deepest levels. It's like I said, there's so much there, so many facets of so much there that need to be cleared and healed, that it explains why it takes so many years to really get anywhere and break free of that frequency prison. So that's just phase 1. Okay, huge value there, needless to say. Okay, so then you have the second recording, which is phase 2. Again, it's done based on or related to each of those 9 chakras. And in phase 2, we put more of an emphasis on viral entities and trans-lifetime entities of all levels. Genetic karma, ancestral and parental vows, agreements, curses, spells, and any other remaining imprints of all the above. All negative unconscious patterns. We also get into the archetypal type of blocks and restrictions, such as the martyr, the rescuer, the victim, the oppressed, and so forth. And also trans-lifetime implants, devices, and all other technologies, their wormholes, their associated wormholes and portals, and in many cases replacement technologies and any other kind of unconscious ancestral imprint, parental imprints, and all the downstream effects of past choices in all lifetimes that did not honor your soul, your true self, and your true purpose. Because every time because of all the interference and traumas, because of all that, we're manipulated or pressured or cajoled into making the wrong decisions that don't honor who and what you are. Okay, and that in and of itself is a form of trauma that leaves its mark, and which doesn't because it doesn't honor who you are, your soul, and your soul purpose. That needs to be cleared as well as all Gaia-based vows, agreements, curses, spells, hexes, contracts not in line with or negatively altered or manipulated against your soul purpose and your higher self and mission as it relates to your mission with Gaia, your relationship with Gaia. That also is cleared and delved into. That can't be left alone as well. That needs to be, cleared, the darkness around it cleared and brought and healed, brought back into alignment. That the manipulation of that cleared. Very, very critical, so critical stuff. As well as all false self-personas, false identities from current and past lifetimes in this timeline and in all alternate and parallel timelines and in alternate and parallel universes, including all the associated programs, beliefs, mindsets associated with each false egoic personality or false egoic self that, you're still invested in, that you're still associated with in this or that or previous lifetimes, as well as their respective imprints, given to you by, the matrix at all levels, physical and non-physical bodies, the effect on those, throughout all aforementioned alternate and parallel selves. And for all the aforementioned to include all times on all the non-physical planes of all respective simultaneous existences. So, if your head's spinning a little bit, because of, like I said, all these different facets of seemingly the one thing, as it was, as in the example of how it relates to, simultaneous and parallel existences and timelines and universes, and both on the non-physical planes as well. It gives you an idea, with what we've been through so far. We're only halfway through here, of what you get when you invest and utilize the 4 phases to break free of this, this frequency jail cell. It gives you an idea of how much there's there that needs to be cleared. Now, again, to get to certain milestones in terms of where you are now and what you want to achieve, you don't necessarily have to have all these things cleared. But in order to achieve those milestones, like, you just have a present time relationship issue or workplace issue or a particular business goal that you want to clear, you don't necessarily have to clear all of this to get to that. It depends on where your frequency is at right now in relation to where the frequency of achieving a particular goal is at. Because when you achieve a particular goal or get into a certain space-time event that you want, that has its own frequency. Okay, so it depends on the gap between your frequency now and that, the frequency of manifesting that goal. And if it's quite a distance in frequencies, then typically it means you just need to clear a bit more. And certainly the 4 phases is designed for that. So I digress. Now you have, the main thing I want to say here is you have an idea of how much there's there, that many times, certainly not all times, needs to be dealt with. And he clearly explains, why so many, perhaps you as well, have spent years doing so much work on yourself, and it doesn't all come together to the extent that it should. You can give it all that time and effort that you've put in over the years to heal and clear and so forth. So onwards. So that's, again, like with phase 1, that's 9 chakras worked on, or all these issues accessed through these 9 chakras, which, again, normally takes a good 9 sessions, with most practitioners anyway, certainly the majority, with an average cost as far as monetary terms is concerned of around $500 to $700, with a great practitioner. And we're still only at phase 2. So phase 3, so we're only halfway through here, okay, in terms of what's worked on, what you get. Now phase 3, we work on the more current lower bodies focus, such as plasma body, mental body, emotional body, astral body, etheric and physical, as well as, in some cases, where necessary, the high spiritual bodies. Okay. And whereas, so that's a phase, the general focus more than anything else with phase 3. Phase 2 was more trans lifetime issues. Okay. Things that kind of oversee your overall soul path from a, trans lifetime or above lifetimes level. With phase 3, this is where we also focus on technologies, such as devices and implants. Okay, so negative implants, nanites, devices at all levels and frequencies, affecting both your physical and non-physical aspect of your endocrine system, neurological system, both physical and, etheric, central nervous system, and corresponding hormones and physical health problems that these interferences often cause. And in all replacement technologies, this one's an easy one that most haven't been taught or forget. Replacement technologies, they've, needless to say, have got to go. And associated portals, sources, and entities, that are often, not all the time, but often associated with each implant or device, both internal and external. Some are non-physical in your field with this kind of thing. And we also work on clearing soul-level blockages related to manifesting financial abundance permanently, which is significantly worked on just by clearing traumas and woundings and soul fragments and so forth from phase 1. It is sort of an overlap there, because by doing that in phase 1, generally has the same effect. Because every time something is cleared at the soul level, you naturally move back into the abundance that's an intrinsic and basic aspect of what your soul is. So we also increase or return the source spark in your thymus in the best way possible for you, in line with your higher self, because all this is done in line with your soul path, your soul purpose, and higher self. That's what's sort of underlying everything as you do each phase, what sort of modulates, controls, and runs it. And that's phase 3, which again is very comprehensive, as you can see. And if you were to do that through one-on-one sessions, you're looking at certainly a lot more than one sessions. With most practitioners, is, I would say, an average of 7 to 9 sessions. And really, you may have spent months and years trying this practitioner or that practitioner, spending hundreds of dollars. And again, you get this just with phase 3. Okay, so phase 4 is DNA clearing and activation, focus. And this is where we clear and undo and heal all negative and disempowering codes, programs, genetic manipulation, and negative portals throughout all physical and non-physical DNA strands and their energetic templates, and any other form of blockages, no matter how hidden it may be, on all levels and bodies, throughout all the strands and DNA templates, as well as clearing all negative, false, and disempowering imprints, DNA imprints inherited from your parental and ancestral DNA, and any other form of blockages, no matter how hidden it may be, on all levels and bodies. Okay, so this is a key fundamental when it comes to DNA activation. DNA activation has been one of those holy grail buzzwords, that one of those nice, I suppose, glamorous or sexy things that is quite a buzz in our community. And most tools out there or trainings out there tend to skip the clearing part, and also the downloading part of DNA reactivation. You've got to clear your DNA, the programs and codes within your DNA. They need to be cleared first. So what happens is in phase 4 is, you're connecting with your I am presence and all dimensional levels of each of your higher selves. And you'll put through a process where you download from your higher self the latest DNA templates, codes, and empowering programs into your DNA templates and DNA strands on all levels and bodies, which basically means all etheric, non-physical DNA strands and templates, in line with your higher self and your soul purpose at this time. So you get what you need in terms of what you need to do at this point in your evolution, your soul path. And this is then infused or installed and fully integrated and begin running these downloaded updates. And the codes are activated, thus altering your non-physical and physical strands and templates of DNA on all levels, both physical and non-physical. So that's a critical process. You've got to clear first, then download the latest codes and programs, and then install and run them, much the way you download, a software onto your computer from the cloud. You then activate it. You click run. It runs it and installs onto the hardware of your computer. Which in your case is your bodies, your physical and non-physical bodies. And that's the process that needs to be done in that order to do things properly, to realistically reactivate your DNA. Okay, so we activate, as I said, all downloaded DNA templates, codes, and programs throughout all your levels. And then you actually activate the DNA strands themselves. Okay, up to your highest current light quotient capacity, because when all this is downloaded and activated, you pull in much more light. And you can't pull in, huge amounts of light all at once. Otherwise, you'll get burnt to a frazzle. It's like, putting in vast amounts of electricity, gigabytes, or whatever the proper technical term is, huge amounts of electricity into a small battery. Just imagine that small battery as your physical body, and you pummel it with huge amounts of electricity, enough to power a city, which gives you an idea of the kind of power that all your high dimensional aspects of you actually has. So it'll cause that little battery to explode. It's done based on how much light you can accrete, based on your current light holding quotient. That's why it's a good idea to do this, each of the phase once a week, and DNA activation, for example, once a month approximately, because there is an integration process. So all of this, ultimately what it comes to is, in terms of work, how much is worked on, how much is cleared, healed, reactivated, brought back into alignment, and in a monetary sense as well. This is a minimum of 6 months worth of weekly one-on-one clearing, healing, and reactivations. Okay. In all honesty, more like decades worth that you're getting for a again, in monetary terms, for a fraction of the normal investment. And you can do them over and over again. If your higher self sees that your current level of evolution and consciousness is not quite ready for such a massive influx of light, and the lower ego destroying ramifications of that. And I'll get into what that means, because this is important to understand when it comes to moving back into your power. Okay. So that's the short of it there. Again, we are in the 3D. Money is required to be used as a tool, because it's a far more better substitute than bartering. Okay. That gives an idea of how much you're saving, because what's important here as it relates to this is that this is made as affordable as possible, so it gets out there, because people obviously need this. But it's important to understand how much value is there, how much you actually get. So I want to make that crystal clear. It's a good $3,000 worth of value that you're getting here. And that's with the, doing things the old-fashioned traditional one layer or one issue at a time method. Now, you can have the 4 phases of healing, clearing, and reactivation for even less than that. Okay. So ignore the $500, because I'm going to give it to you even less than that. Because, again, this really needs to get out there. I'm extremely serious about this. I'm going to give you, you can access and invest in each phase separately, so you don't have to make a big one-time payment. For even less than $500, it's going to be $60 per phase. Okay, $60 per phase. That's it. And so that's, $240 all up. And you can buy them, one at a time, like once a week. $60 per week as you finish each one. That way it's really affordable, and also there is an option just to encourage you to take this critical step. I'm giving away phase 1. If you opt in to a newsletter, you get a big 33% discount of 33%, and that brings it down to just $40. So you can get started with just $40 if you opt in. And with regards to the newsletter, you get enormous value from that. You'll only be getting 1 email a week from me with important, empowering updates. You also become part of our community. So that's the deal there. You can opt in. There's a link there you can opt in on the 4 Systems page that you might be watching this from. And you can activate the pop-up that comes down if it doesn't come down automatically, and opt into that pop-up, and you get a coupon, and you get an email with a coupon, and you just use that coupon code to get things started for you, okay, and get you returning back to your power. Now remember, I will be with you, the teams will be with you every step of the way. We will be together in the same time space, okay. Think of it as a kind of virtual reality room, which is real, okay. There's a famous saying or quote by Pablo Picasso, that famous Spanish painter, legendary Spanish painter, who said, "Everything that you imagine is real." And that's really stuck to my memory when I first saw that many years ago. So we will be together. Don't let the programmed mind trick you into thinking that we won't all be with you. So, now, like I said, it's critical this gets out there. Okay, because of, one thing that interference, unresolved issues results in is, money struggles. Okay, so because of the cash-strapped situation, all of that which is not you or unresolved within you may have put you in, and the profound need for getting this service to proliferate out into the world so that that more people like you can clear themselves and thus accrete and channel more light into your personal grid, which in turn accretes and channels this same light into the earth grids of Gaia, because your personal grids are connected intimately, strongly to Gaia's grids, which really helps Gaia and all of humanity ascend, and dissolve the negative energies during this ascension cycle that we're in. And thirdly, your fundamental right and free will choice to return to the beauty, power, freedom, happiness, love, and abundance of who and what you really are, which I've dedicated myself to honor and make happen. And so has your higher self. Okay, of course, you need to commit to this. And partly because we all need to live on something, okay, at least until this planet has ascended. I'm willing to make this available to you for, if you opt in, for only $40. So apologies for sounding redundant here, but this, this really needs to get out there. I'm sure you understand that. And I'm going to make this even easier for you, because this critical investment in yourself and the planet, because of all that, it needs to get out there, proliferate throughout the world. I'm going to, like I said, drop the price all the way down to only $40, not $60, $40 if you opt in. $60 if you don't opt in. So, despite how critical it is for this to get to so many people as possible, I have to charge something, because here's the deal. And apologies for the pause here, because there's a general belief that such a critical thing, shouldn't be charged for. No one should charge money for something so important. And in one's respect, they have a good argument. It's understandable why many would say that. Many, made the critical point that, well, if this is so important, why is, providers or energy practitioners charging for it? Just give it away for free. So here's the thing to understand. We still live, I too feel that something so critical shouldn't cost money. But we still live in a lower density where basic things, basic needs like food, water, shelter cost money, because someone had to do a lot of work to provide you with these critical needs. Okay, money is not really the issue. Money is just a 3D tool to work as a substitute for bartering, which in practicality terms is impossible to apply in society. The issue here is strictly the dense, slow, and clunky nature of this density. It's not like the 5D where everything you need can literally appear in front of you, or takes very little time to manifest. So in the 3D, it takes a lot of time and effort for someone to make or produce something, whether it's a table or a chair or a house or a car. And something as basic as food, for example, which everyone has a right to, right, takes a lot of work and time to produce. Someone has to plough the soil, plant something in the soil to grow, nurture it for 6 months, harvest it, store it, transport it, stock it, sell it, and you get the point. And that's why food, the most basic need that everyone has a perfect right to, costs money. So be clear on the fact that it's the fundamental mechanics of the 3D, which is that it's fundamentally slower, clunkier, where more time and effort is needed, that makes manifesting take longer. Okay, money is just one of those things that's affected by the fundamentals of the 3D when it comes to manifesting. Now, it took me 11 years to amass the necessary experience, understanding, strong enough connections to high enough levels of light beings, daily inner work, experimenting, and another 4 months of work to put this service together for you and the planet. So that's what you're also investing in here, not just the means and opportunity to finally transform your life, realistically. And secondly, there's the interesting phenomena of people who don't use products that were cheap to buy or free. Okay. But at the same time, those, the same people, you and I, in many cases, at the same time, fully commit and make the most out of products that we spend a lot of money on, invested $4,000 to $10,000 on, which, courses like this do cost that money, that kind of money. And why is that? Well, that's simply because of what I call the e-book syndrome. How with many of us, someone who just invented, say, as an example, $10,000 means they've sunk so much into something, invested so heavily that they, better damn well make sure they use and apply what they just invested so much in, because they got a lot more skin in the game. They're forced to make it happen now if you've invested so much in terms of monetary terms. And how many of us, how many ebooks or physical books even have we bought in the past for, say, $20, maybe $49? And no matter how amazing and critical the information is, it ends up sitting on your hard drive collecting dust. Okay, so funnily enough, charging a very significant amount works for those reasons. And it's been proven in marketing tests as well. If the monetary value is low, then not only is perceived value low, but participation is also low. And that much you and Gaia can't afford. So I've had to, create a situation where you're investing something in monetary terms as well. That's still, affordable, balancing it out between affordability, but enough where you sort of invested, yourself a lot, which happens when you invest in terms of monetary terms. So that's why something is being charged for something so critical like the 4-phase system. It actually helps ensure that you actually do this, you follow through, that you invested something in terms of monetary terms. And it's also based on the clunky, slow, fundamental nature of how the 3D operates. Now, you do also get weekly support, okay, on our live Q&A webinar. So you won't be on your own. You can also email me at admin@returntoyourtruth for anything that you want to discuss, or send in a testimonial. So the 4-phase system really can save you years of healing, clearing, and realigning with the power and abundance of who and what you really are. That's what it's specifically designed for. Okay. Now, I really want to raise an army of light here. This is also critical to accelerate humanity's ascension into 5D, to liberate this planet from all forms of tyranny and return to our natural state of joy, bliss, and abundance. In other words, truth. Okay. This is so critical. Negative things, negative events on this planet, they can't really operate or manifest through into the physical if there's more positive energy running the show on the surface of the planet. They can't really do it. And like I said, imagine the ramifications here. With this kind of thing, because your grids, your field is intimately connected with Gaia's grids, the more you clear, the more light comes in through your grids and goes into Gaia's grids, which really does help either stop or shut down negative energies, darkness that runs, that instigates, that causes negative events ultimately. Okay. So this is far more. This is far more than just about yourself or ourselves. It's about the whole planet. Okay, there is a big collective external planetary aspect to the 4-phase system. And by investing in this, even just by opting in, you get into my newsletter, and every so often we do global synchronized meditations, particularly on huge critical astrological dates, whether it's new moons, solar eclipses, and what have you. And together, we're a part of this army of light that can override through our unified consciousness and coordination, override and effectively call the shots on what happens to this planet, so that the so-called Illuminati or powers that were, or the dark ones, physical and non-physical, aren't running things. We are. Okay. And just imagine that. Let that sink in. So this is another reason why I really strongly, and this is coming from your higher self, that I'm channeling as well, by the way. It's important to join such a thing, call it a movement or whatever you want. Because unlike most other movements, I know how to clear or protect, very subtle, gradual infection, darkness infection that seeps in and it gradually takes over movements, and which is why they've gone in a weird direction or gone off path, off their divinely aligned path in the past with so many other movements that have come up. So really think about that. This is, you're doing this for much more than just yourself. And the other thing to be aware of, why the four-phase system is so critical, is, and by the way, when you invest in the four-phase system, this is really critical as well, half the money goes into things like grid work, which my team and I have gotten really good at now. We've been doing it for years, and we've cleared many critical power centers, both natural and artificial power centers, that now are reclaimed back into the light, which is why things like economic collapse, World War III, hasn't actually occurred. It's because a lot of these clearings are taking place by clearing grid points, ley line nexus points, power centers, vortexes, natural Gaia vortexes. I've got a fair bit of experience in this, and you're also effectively sponsoring these operations. Only about a small portion of proceeds that come in from the sales of the four-phase system actually goes to me being able to just live comfortably. Okay, a lot of it does go into grid work, which accelerates ascension even faster, but not just even faster, for things to go even smoother, for the transition that we're in to go much smoother. Okay, and you may be familiar with things like the mass arrests or the event where the financial system is going to be transformed, literally, and in a way that serves humanity, not harvests humanity's energy, where long suppressed technologies are released. Free energy technologies, literally immortality technologies, teleportation and portal travel technologies, anti-gravity travel, that will transform your life and life on this planet and end the suffering. That's the thing I do and will continue to do huge amounts of focus and investing time, energy, and focus on. And by investing for yourself in the four-phase system, you're putting the financial capacity for people such as myself to do this for the planet as well. So I'm not stuck in a full-time job having the matrix harvest my energy instead. So have a really good think about that. This is huge, needless to say. So join this army of light is basically what I'm saying. Be a part of something massive as well. Be a part of us. And if you're watching this presentation, chances are this is in alignment with your soul path. If not, that's totally fine. At the end of the day, you have to follow your soul path and purpose. That's something I always honor with everyone. So the next thing about all this is the law of service and bringing in more light onto the surface planet faster for a quick and smoother transition, which is a must. Okay. The more people invest in the four-phase system, the more people I can serve, because we're all in the same, virtual reality room, that energetic space that I'm with each person that listens to this. That why I'm able to serve you and humanity much more by kind of energetically duplicating myself. Whereas with one-on-ones, I do that much less. I'm limited by linear time space. So I can only serve, whoever books me each day, which is far, far less. So by not having something like the 4-phase system and only doing one-on-one sessions, I serve far fewer people, therefore serve humanity far less, which is another big, big fundamental of why the 4-phase system needs to get out there. And on top of all of that, I do plan to invest in things like Facebook advertising, YouTube advertising to advertise the 4-phase system so that more people are able to clear themselves, heal themselves. More light is able to come through more and more people's fields and into Gaia's grids, which heals all these ley line grids and Hartmann grids and so forth. And I'm able to serve through this energetic duplication as more and more people hear my voice and receive this service from the teams. I'm able to serve even more people. So a lot of the proceeds from this sales will also go into advertising for this to get out there. And of course, once you try phase 1 or phase 2 or all of them and you get a lot out of it, it is strongly recommended that, if it does something for you, even if it just gives you the same level of healing and clearing and movement upwards in frequency as any normal one-on-one session that you would have with any energy practitioner, even at that bare minimum sort of result, it's still, cheaper to utilize this because you only invest in the 4 phases system once and then you just use them over and over again. It's not like with one-on-ones where you have to book again, invest the same amount of money again every time you do it. So that's another reason to recommend this to people in your network, friends, family, comrades, what have you, people that need this kind of energy clearing, these sorts of tools and protocols. Certainly recommended to them by forwarding the Return to Your Truth, link, where they can invest in it, watch this presentation and understand what the deal is and what the ramifications are, the planetary ramifications. So having said all of that, let's get back into one critical thing, one question that may come up for you, which is, how much can you clear and heal in one session, to transform your life? Now, the short answer is it depends on how much influx of light and resulting influx of revelatory and sometimes startling or even shocking truth your current level of consciousness and egoic maturity is ready to handle and integrate, based on where you're currently at in your revolution. So, technically speaking, these sessions are designed to, and certainly can remove and clear and heal everything within you, okay, at all levels, including alternate and parallel lifetimes within the quantum field. Now, your higher self will only allow this to go as far as your egoic conditioned mind and personality, that false sense of self, that's very programmed and conditioned, can handle the resulting change in your life. So the other way to put this is because as your truth starts to come closer to the surface, okay, so we clear everything, that's covering up your natural abundance, your natural power, and the bigness of who and what you are. The so-called truth of at least some. Well, what happens is the so-called truth of at least some of your beliefs, your world paradigm and the so-called truth out there that your egoic programmed personality is sort of invested in, it starts to fall apart or just disappear, leaving you wondering what the hell just happened. Okay. Your egoic personality's world starts to fall apart, to be removed, to clear the space for the outer reflection of more of your abundance, love, fulfillment, and happiness that you truly are inside to manifest out there. Because as you may know, the outer that's in your life, the so-called outer reality that's in your life, is nothing more than, generally speaking, a reflection of what's going on inside you. It's nothing more than a distortion coming through your field from an eternal source. So you start to discover the truth about, for example, some of your relationships. Okay, because ultimately, some or many of your relationships could be there just because of some kind of past life vow, agreement, contract, often stemming from some form of trauma or duress state, and the karmic imprints that you're stuck in lifetime after lifetime because you haven't as yet cleared or healed it. So you've been wondering, why do I end up with such broken or abusive intimate relationships, or broken or abusive co-workers and bosses, family members or people I live with? And it's because you're just falling into the imprints of the past. Thus you attract them because all these issues and dramas are still going on inside. Because, like I said, time is simultaneous, not linear. The threat to your world, your view of reality, your ideological beliefs and programming around politics, sociology, economics, demographics, etc., that your egoic personality has invested so much of your life and sense of self into, may make your higher self slow down the amount you can clear in each session. Because if those ideologies, beliefs, programs that we've been conditioned with at the egoic conscious mind level, and your perception of reality, resulting perception of reality, if all these ideologies and beliefs are not holistic enough, where it covers, the whole truth about the matter it's about, or that it's, or if it's, not based on high enough level of wisdom and consciousness, let alone if it's based on a trick or a lie or a collective level trauma that it may stem from, or a curse or a vow, instead of based in truth, light or love, then rest assured, all these truths are going to come, flying right into your face, all at once, or you'll be pulled apart from all these things you thought were truth, and there's only so much of that outer reality process that one can handle at any one time, as a result of, which is all a result of, more of your inner truth on who and what you are coming to the surface. So if you have relationships that's built on a lie or a trick, or is just another karmic imprint from your past lives that's looping, or dependency, or it's based on dependency or some form of energetic toxicity, then you can expect that to either explode in your face or be pulled away from you in some way. Now, if you clear yourself, these things tend not to explode in your way unless you clear so much at the one time. Now, another example, if the company or business you work for is built on some kind of a lie or a trick or a trauma or a vow within you or within the collective of that company or business, that might sort of blow up in your face or be pulled away from you in a very abrupt way if too much is cleared too fast. Okay. Now, you may be of the kind of character and personality that can handle this, in which case your higher self will say, yep, clear all of that as well, and with that resulting influx of life, really exposing the truth of certain aspects of your life all at once, and because it knows you can handle it. But if not, you'll do it in a slightly more gradual way, because truth, it's been symbolized by the sword throughout history, because the sword, because it cuts through the lies and it can hurt sometimes, and certainly don't let this put you off or intimidate you. You'll definitely want to make this happen. You'll definitely want to do this because it's well worth it, believe me. Otherwise, you're stuck where you're stuck at. Just know that there's such an influx of light as all this stuff is cleared by doing the four-phase system can result in the inner clearing, which can result in outer clearing and things in important life, things in your life that you may have been accustomed to, invested your sense of self into, lived by, and have attachments to, probably will fall away, because most of that is not your truth. It doesn't reflect the inner power and abundance of who and what you really are. So a lot of this may fall away. And I'm just simply saying, if it's too much done all at the one time, it might be too much, so that's why I call this the evolutionary path. Now, you can transform your life in as little as 2 to 3 months if you do the 4 phases, consistently, once a week. So each phase once a month. But again, this is one thing where your situation is unique and your higher self will oversee what you can handle in terms of outer change as a result of inner change, as a result of the clearing and healing from doing the 4-phase system. So another example is, say you're part of some sort of ideological movement, okay, or non-profit organization, for example. If that ideological movement or non-profit organization, whatever it is, that you may be a part of or subscribe to is built on some kind of a lie or a trick or a trauma or vow within you or within the collective, or isn't holistic enough, which can be damaging in some respects, then again, that might explode in your face or be pulled away from you, because you'll start seeing things you never saw before, as a result of doing the 4 phases. And like I said, ultimately, this is a good thing, because it helps liberate you from the things that keep you stuck in this unhappy or miserable, therefore due rest state. And it doesn't have to be, a hard, jarring experience if you maintain a higher or true perspective on what's happening in your life, which the 4-phase system can help you achieve. And if you handle things the right or pragmatic way, and as you handle this thing as the real you, your power from the truth of who you really are starts to come through to the surface of your current incarnation, and you'll never have to repeat this garbage ever again, because clearing this now will mean it won't repeat in your future lifetimes like it has been for the past thousands of years. So, put an end to it now, is my recommendation. The outer world effects in your personal reality, that doesn't have to be, jarring or jolting, as things either improve or fall away. Things explode or get pulled away in a very hard way only if you're really attached to things. But again, returning more to your truth, which is what the four-phase system is all about, allows you to do that much quicker, much easier. Like I said. Apologies for being redundant sometimes and repeating myself in some ways throughout this webinar, because certain things really do need to be stressed. Okay, you're getting a big download here, including voice codes through my voice via your soul, your higher self, by the way. So, okay, let's see where we are here. The only thing that's really limiting how much of that which is not you can be removed is simply where you're currently at in your overall, I suppose, maturity, your overall evolution, your current level of awareness, of understanding. In other words, your current level of consciousness. Because, and your higher self knows all this and knows how much of truth you can handle at any one time, both in terms of the things in your life that manifested out of what you thought was truth as it falls away, and the beliefs, aka mental programs that construct our world. Even though there's far more of the world out there that tells you a hell of a lot more of what's really going on. So ultimately, your higher self is in charge of how much past and present life stuff can be healed and cleared at any one session, based on how much of the ramifications or impact on your life you can handle at any one time. Otherwise, too many people, can be overwhelmed. Can be overwhelmed by this, because I suppose I'm just trying to impress upon you how real this is. The four-phase system, it's not a game. It's real. And believe me, you'll want to do it. You want to grab this with both hands. If not, at least for the planetary, collective human, profound benefits and ramifications of. So people who do DNA activation, it's exactly the same thing. They can only activate DNA to the level that they can handle the amount of light, i.e. truth. The light and truth and love, they're sort of synonymous. And many people who go straight to DNA clearing, if you haven't cleared yourself enough, don't expect dramatic levels of DNA activation anytime soon. Believe me, I've been there and done that. So, not recommended to jump straight to phase 4, which is the DNA clearing and activation part. And these clearings allow you to finally make and carry out, those choices, those decisions based on answers that were always there. And they're still there in front of you right now. But you can't see them. You couldn't see them because of your internal interference. And to finally carry them out. Bliss comes from choices and decisions that is based on your sole purpose and your free will, which is a fundamental of how happiness is achieved. And, there are some lessons your egoic mind simply needs to experience at a conscious level to take on that growth and lesson by going through that actual experience. That's still an element of your evolution. But if you do have those experiences that your higher self has already lined up for you, so you go through that necessary growth to get back into your power. These 4 phases of clearing and healing allows those experiences to not be as jarring, jolting, and brutal, because you'll be more healed, cleared, therefore see what's going on while you're in the middle of this experience and lesson. So you're able to take on those critical lessons through life experiences much quicker and easier. Yeah, that's another thing, another benefit of the 4-phase system, and not be overwhelmed or lost in an experience, and therefore repeating it forever until you finally get the lesson. Again, that's another critical fundamental of returning to your power. So it's smoother ultimately. It's about having a smoother evolutionary journey comparatively, and comparatively quicker, and take on those lessons. And critical growth in wisdom and consciousness needed for your path back to freedom, happiness, and abundance, which is your natural state. Now, don't invest in anything if you're not truly committed to saying goodbye to all those things you don't want in your life, which, once again, is nothing more than something internal expressing itself externally in your outer reality, and therefore being reflected back at you. Make sure you really commit to this. So that's the end of this presentation. There was a lot to cover, because there's so many energetic, technical, mechanical fundamentals that explain the reason why the 4-phase system is so powerful, and how and why it could work for you, and why it's just the sensible, pragmatic thing for you to invest in yourself and in the planet. Support planetary liberation efforts to transform this world as well. Again, most of the money that I receive from you investing in this will go to grid work, will go to clearing the non-physical planes, negative infrastructure, that constitute the veil, to remove that etheric and plasmatic non-physical infrastructure that keeps this planet at a lower, dense, and therefore difficult state in terms of frequency. You're really investing in planetary liberation, literally. Not just in yourself, and you become part of the army of light that participates 24/7, really, because more light will be coming through the veil, through your personal grids and into Gaia's grids. Automatically, without having to do anything. You'll be participating in global synchronized meditations at critical astrological and cosmic event dates and times, which, and all of this is something that I focus full time. And the teams and I have done countless vast planetary clearings that affect our lives, and it has to do so much with how it influences the quality of life that we live and the kind of world that we live. So it's about that. It's 50% about that as well. So keep that in mind. That's why, that's half the reason why, I ask people, don't forward, the download link to friends, just refer them to the 4-phase system page. It's not just for ethical reasons, which, always comes back to us karmically, but also the literal monetary investment in planetary liberation itself. Okay. So huge things, that's as big as it gets. That's what's sort of behind or overriding and driving the 4-phase system. So invest. If you get a lot out of it, even if it, to play devil's advocate, even if it's only as much as you normally get with any one-on-one session with any other practitioner, that's still great because you can just do it again without having to invest money again by booking a one-on-one session. If you get a lot out of it, please refer your friends to it, and post it on Facebook, whatever group you're part of, and that kind of thing, because it's time. It's time for humanity to ascend to its natural state, for us to, through the energetic clearings and healings of both your internal system and Gaia's system, to transmute the negative energies that has been running this world for so long, release free technologies, release anti-gravity, travel to the stars, hidden technologies that literally bring about immortality, at the physical level. That does exist, it is real. Free energy, phenomenal healing technologies that can heal the sick, end poverty. Ultimately this is what it's all about. So invest in this world, in this planet's liberation, by investing in the four-phase system so you can heal and clear. Thank you. This is Jim Tortsakis. Apologies for running over time, but as you can see, as you found out for yourself, the amount of time that this webinar has gone for is well and truly justified and warranted. So there's a link there, returntoyourtruth.com/the. I don't know why it ended up with that kind of URL, but I'm not a technical person. That's a link to go to, and if you're watching this presentation on some other online platform, you'll find the same presentation there, so you don't have to watch it again. Just click the button that you'll see beneath this video, and it's time, to heal. It's time to return to your natural state of happiness, joy, and bliss again. So well done for taking in this huge, massive information. It's so critical here, and go for it. Follow your guidance. Don't let anything hold you back. Now's the time to end all the nonsense, end the needless suffering that's a result of all the distortions and traumas inside you, and be the beautiful, loving person and free person that you are, and manifest that into your physical reality by clearing it internally. Thank you. Big hugs from me. And till next time, bye from now.